It had been almost 3 decades since black people in South Africa and indeed around the world had seen Nelson Mandela in public. He had faced imprisonment with defiance.
I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an idea for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an idea for which I am prepared to die. To meditate, I send a message on.
Death was not demanded, but life, much of his, was forfeited in pursuit of that ideal. South Africa's anti-apartheid movement was at its height in 1964, when Mandela and 7 other activists were imprisoned. The man who, by another name, was christened one who brings trouble onto himself, would spend the next 27 years behind bars in a fight to ease the troubles of his people.
Free, 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 Nelson Mandela.
His release in 1990 marked a major turning point in the country's history. On July 18, 1918, the son of a Tembu chief was born in a small village in the Transkei province of eastern South Africa. He was christened Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. As a young boy, he enjoyed farming and engaged in other boyish pursuits. His schooling, right up to the time at the University of Fort Hare, was a first for any member of his family. Other firsts would be logged, and the catalyst might have come in 1939 when, in an attempt to escape an arranged marriage, Mandela moved to Johannesburg, bringing him face to face with the system he would dedicate his life to fighting.
It's a system of racial oppression in which basically the majority of South Africans were disenfranchised. They were denied all kinds of rights, political, economic, social rights. This obviously was exercised by a white minority regime against, not just against black South Africans who were the majority of the population, but also against colors, which are known, that's how they know in South Africa, but it's mixed people, and also against Asians, or people of Asian origin.
The system of racial segregation, apartheid, existed in South Africa from as early as 1910. It was made more formal and more widespread with the victory of the National Party in 1948. Earlier, in 1943, Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC, and through it, the struggle against apartheid. Mandela and the ANC engaged in passive resistance to the segregated policies, until later being forced into armed struggle, prompting a government ban on ANC activities.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people.
Mandela's actions were not overlooked. In 1962, he was captured, escaped, and went into hiding. 2 years later, he was recaptured and sentenced to life imprisonment. From behind the bars forged from apartheid, Mandela continued the fight. Inspired by his stance behind those bars, the movement found new energy.
The leadership of ANC is going to decide that they're going to make Nelson Mandela the icon of this struggle against apartheid. And that's when they started the campaign, Free Mandela campaign. And the struggle against apartheid became much more popular, not just in South Africa, but elsewhere, in particular in Western Europe and North America. Everybody came to know the sufferings and the injustices that black South Africans were undergoing through the face of Mandela and through this campaign to liberate and to free Nelson Mandela.
The strategy was successful, and worldwide sanctions against South Africa, coupled with widespread resistance within its borders, eventually forced the government to rethink its apartheid policies. Mandela was released in 1990 after successful negotiations with the white government, led at the time by Frederick Willem de Klerk. Within months of his release, he was able to convince the government to establish a multiracial democracy in the country. He was elected leader of the ANC in 1991. Then, in 1994, the inmate from cell 46664 made the transition from prisoner to president when the ANC won South Africa's first democratic elections and Nelson Mandela was named president.
Our emotion said the white minority is an enemy. We must never talk with them. But our brain said, if you don't talk with this man, your country will go up in flames. And for many years to come, this country will be engulfed in rivers of blood. So we had to reconcile that conflict.
Mandela and de Klerk shared the 1993 Nobel Peace Prize for their work in ending apartheid and laying the foundation for a democratic South Africa.
The fact that he was for a multiracial South Africa, in that he was very convinced about it, and that he was able to convince all the anti-apartheid organizations that that was the way to go, that the future of South Africa had to be a multiracial South Africa. That also made the negotiations successful, because if ANC had been more radical, or if they had antagonized the South African government, perhaps very likely the South African government would not have given up so many things, and probably we wouldn't be talking about successful negotiations. Perhaps we will be talking about a civil war.
Mandela spent a single term in office from 1994 to 1999. Besides his role as freedom fighter and statesman, Mandela was also a family man. He fathered 6 children and was married 3 times. The first marriage, a 13-year union with Evelyn Mace, ended in 1957. Mandela married Winnie Madikizela in 1958. During that nearly 40-year union, Winnie became a global symbol of activism, carrying on the struggle for freedom while Mandela remained in prison. The union, however, didn't last, and they divorced in 1996. Mandela remarried again in 1998 to Grace Michelle. During his presidency, Nelson Mandela sought to establish diplomatic ties between South Africa and other nations. Jamaica was among those countries he engaged, officially establishing diplomatic relations on September 9, 1994, 3 years after his first visit to the island. To acknowledge his work, an honorary degree was conferred on him by the University of the West Indies, and the Nelson Mandela Park in Halfway Tree and the Mandela Highway in St. Catherine were renamed in his honor. During Nelson Mandela's tenure as president, South Africa and Jamaica explored bilateral relationships, mainly in the areas of education and human resource development. Negotiations for the establishment of a South African diplomatic mission to Jamaica came to fruition in 2000. Jamaica's High Commission in that country was opened 6 years later. Cooperation between both countries continued even after Mandela retired from public life. Had it not been for the bravery and determination of Nelson Mandela and other anti-apartheid campaigners, South Africa might have remained isolated, with few allies and opportunities for cooperation with other countries. Not only did he bring about freedom for black South Africans, but Mandela also put his country back on the road to economic prosperity.
His greatest legacy to me will be his leadership and his example. His leadership, because the way that he was able to lead black South Africans, his example, or South Africans in general, his example in the sense that he was able to, he's somebody that sacrificed a lot in his life, because he was committed to an idea, to something greater than him.
The time for the healing of the wounds has come. We enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk toward a rainbow nation at peace with itself and the world.